Two of Hollywood's most iconic actors, Robert Redford and Paul Newman, made quite an impression. Redford, however, kept mum for decades on the real story of their friendship and the man behind the stardom. He has now spoken up, and it's not a good thing, at the age of 89. Find out what Robert Redford has to say about Paul Newman and the untold story that fans have been waiting for as we bring you this exclusive interview. Going from sundown to nowhere. Robert Redford came into this world in Santa Monica, California, as Charles Robert Redford Jr. on August 18, 1936. His entrance occurred smack dab in the midst of the Great Depression, when Americans were fighting for survival. Even Redford's own family was humble. After a stint as a milkman, Charles Robert Redford Sr. settled into a career in chemistry and eventually became a lab technician. He was a realist, a reliable worker, and an advocate of perseverance. Martha Hart, his mother, had an entirely different impact on her son. She was a professional artist and freelance illustrator who brought joy to the home and taught Robert to appreciate the little things. This synergy had a profound effect on him. He learned discipline and stability from his dad. He got a love of creativity and the arts from his mom. Despite being close to Hollywood, his childhood was everything but glamorous. Even though Robert's family wasn't very well off, he could see signs of the film business in the area. Everyone talking about famous actors, premieres, and billboards. Although it might not have been apparent at the time, these early experiences laid the groundwork for a love of cinema that would last a lifetime. It was at the San Fernando Valley's New York High School that Redford initially became interested in theater. The theater provided him with an outlet, even though he wasn't an ideal student and didn't always conform to classroom norms. He first experienced the exhilaration of performing and the thrill of storytelling in school theatrical productions and activities. The polished charisma he would eventually bring to the screen was still in its early stages, but this was the initial indication of his innate talent. Redford attended CU Boulder after finishing high school. He was initially interested in architecture. His analytical side shone through in his pursuit of knowledge about architecture and design. Being an architect required foresight, precision, and persistence, skills that would be useful to him in his career as a film director. However, he wasn't really committed. He freely admitted that he wasn't entirely devoted to his studies. He was more enthusiastic in delving into life outside of school in pursuit of knowledge. While in Colorado, he dealt with personal issues, such as extensive drinking, which caused him to doubt his direction in life. After coming to terms with the fact that architecture wasn't his calling, he courageously decided to pursue a career in the arts instead. At this juncture, he decided to go to Europe, where he could immerse himself in the culture while traveling and drawing. He resolved to give acting his full attention upon his return to the US. He uprooted his life and headed to the Big Apple to attend the illustrious American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Under the regimented instruction and supervision he got there, Redford was able to hone his unbridled enthusiasm into a marketable talent. The school not only provided him with instruction in technique, movement, and voice, but it also put him in touch with teachers who saw his potential. Robert Redford, who had been a fidgety student before, finally settled down to become an actor in New York. The late 1950s marked the beginning of Redford's acting career, which began with bit parts on television. Many aspiring young actors got their starts in the industry in the form of episodic television. As a guest star on shows like Perry Mason and Maverick, he gained valuable experience in front of the camera. He honed his skills in swift adaptation, set comprehension, and self-assurance in every character he played. In the early 1960s, he started getting modest roles in films as well. His stunning good looks caught the attention of Hollywood casting directors, who frequently sought him out for jobs with handsome boys. Redford found this to be an arduous task. He desired to be revered for his acting chops, and not merely his good looks. He actively sought out parts that would challenge his stereotyping and allow him to grow as an actor. His career seemed to be progressing at a snail's pace at times, which annoyed him. But his popularity grew with each appearance, and more possibilities would present themselves in due course. His formative years did not include rapid ascent to fame, but they did provide the foundation he would require. Along with that, they made him appreciate acting more. By the time he achieved his big break, Redford had become more than simply another handsome guy. His training as an actor had given him focus, direction, and resolve. Creativity, hardship, and perseverance molded Robert Redford's early years, and what followed would ultimately place him on the same path to prominence as Paul Newman. Robert Redford was a steadily working actor in the late 1960s when he met Newman. Nonetheless, he was not yet a household name. Still, everything changed in 1969 when Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid came out. George Roy Hill's picture starred Paul Newman, who was already a Hollywood heavyweight, alongside Robert Redford. It was initially a stretch to cast Redford as the Sundance Kid. Despite studio reservations, Newman was cast for the part because to director Hill's faith in him and Newman's own endorsement. Thanks to that gamble, Redford was able to seize a chance that would change the course of his career. The Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy were fictional characters based on actual Western criminals. Redford portrayed Sundance, a huskier but lethal and precise gunslinger, and Newman played Butch Cassidy, the gregarious and adroit leader. The movie was an action western in theory, but it turned out to be more of a character-driven tale about devotion and friendship in practice. Newman and Redford's on-screen chemistry was electric. Their chemistry was natural, their confidence in one another was apparent, and the crowd was enthralled by their shared sense of humor. The innovative take on the buddy movie was the film's defining feature. Partnerships in Hollywood had hitherto adhered to rigid patterns. The dynamic duo in this film exuded an air of contemporary ease. Viewers adored the way Redford's icy self-assurance complemented Newman's charisma. They came up with a fresh approach to friendships in animated media as a team, one in which the story's importance was secondary to that of trust, comedy, and equality. Sundance, the character Redford portrayed, became synonymous with him. Tough yet guarded, serious yet charming. That was him. He became iconic in the United States as the swashbuckling outlaw with unwavering composure and keen instincts. The combination of Sundance's defiance and quiet power portrayed by Redford had a lasting impact on how heroes were portrayed in cinema, and posters of the actor were a common sight. From a promising actor, Redford became a Hollywood icon practically overnight. Redford and Newman teamed up again for George Roy Hill's The Sting, a film that came out 4 years later. This time around, they portrayed American grifters during the Great Depression rather than outlaws. Redford portrayed Johnny Hooker, a rookie hustler, and Newman as Henry Gondorff, a seasoned con artist. Stylish, smart, and full of surprises, the film was a real treat. The chemistry between the two leads, however, was once again the showstopper. Their on-screen chemistry was already a product of their off-screen friendship. In a light-hearted rivalry, they could finish each other's sentences, and they could make intricate con games look entertaining. Laughter and good times abounded on set while they were dating, according to set stories. Redford and Newman's incessant teasing kept the staff in stitches. They were also very dedicated to their work. They brought a touch of fun to the plot, improvised little scenes, and managed to keep the severity of the story in check with the endearing characters. That harmony imbued the picture with its own vitality. In terms of popularity, The Sting surpassed even Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid. With its 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, the film solidified Redford and Newman's status as a lucrative acting team in Hollywood. Their names became synonymous for charisma and credibility among industry insiders and fans alike. People anticipated charisma, talent, and chemistry from any film starring Newman and Redford. Not only were the two films entertaining, but they also accomplished more. Additionally, they set the stage for Redford and Newman to develop a genuine friendship. Their relationship was based on mutual respect, in contrast to the numerous Hollywood collaborations that were characterized by animosity or egotism. Newman, who was already well known, never sought to steal the show from Redford. At no point in his career did Redford have any jealousy toward Newman for his achievements. Supporting and relying on one another's gut feelings, they moved forth together. Their bond deepened as time went on. In their spare time, they would frequently play pranks or joke around, demonstrating their common sense of humor. They were both very private people who couldn't stand the emptiness of Hollywood stardom. Because they could relate to one another's struggles in ways that few could, their bond became even deeper. The absence of rivalry was the most striking feature. Pairing up with someone of comparable talent was a challenge for many performers. However, it was perfect for Redford and Newman. Because of how they interacted, neither of them could take center stage. Collaborating was a pleasure because of the mutual regard they had. The bond between Redford and Newman provided stability during Redford's still-emerging career. Redford was given room to flourish by Newman's self-assurance and kindness. An invigorating new vitality was introduced to Newman by Redford's intellect and ambition. Not only did they make 2 groundbreaking pictures, but they also established a legendary friendship in Hollywood. These initial partnerships laid the groundwork for a lasting bond. Even after all these years had passed, Redford would always talk about Newman with the same kind of brotherly affection. Breaking out of Newman's shadow, what started as a Western casting became a significant partnership in Redford's life. Following the smash hits of The Sting and Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, Robert Redford went from being a promising young actor to an established star. He was one of Hollywood's most prominent figures. But that wasn't the end of it. He avoided playing the same kinds of roles over and over again in favor of ones that allowed him to showcase his versatility. All the President's Men, a political drama that Redford appeared in 1976, was based on the true story of Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, two journalists who helped expose the Watergate affair. Redford desired greater say over the stories he told, and the fact that he co-produced the picture and played Woodward is evidence of that. Redford gained notoriety as more than simply an affable actor thanks to the box office smash. Additionally, he possessed a keen understanding of politics and a determined spirit. Redford kept branching out throughout the 1980s. He played a baseball player named Roy Hobbs in the film The Natural, whose career takes a tragic turn before being miraculously rejuvenated. The film's key themes were skill, atonement, and the significance of second chances. The combination of Redford's strength and sensitivity in her performance struck a chord with the audience. The box office success of the picture cemented his reputation as an actor capable of convincingly inhabiting the roles of iconic American heroes. Out of Africa, a grand romantic epic adapted from Karen Blixen's memoir and starring Redford and Meyer Street the next year, was a worldwide smash. Dennis Finch Hatton, portrayed by Redford, is an adventurous and free-spirited hunter who wins Blixen's heart. The picture was nominated for numerous Oscars, including Best Picture, and it was Redford's second pivotal role in the industry. Once again, he stood out due to his ability to exude both an intimate, low-key presence and an imposing, larger-than-life persona. Redford was getting ready to take a step back from the camera as his acting career took off. His directorial debut, Ordinary People, was released in 1980. The film followed a family as they struggled to cope with the death of a son. It was a sensitive film that showcased Redford's storytelling abilities. It was quiet and heartfelt. Ordinary People was Redford's first Oscar, and it won Best Film and Best Director. He became one of the rare performers to make the transition to directing at the top level with this accomplishment. He kept directing all the way until the 1980s. Redford delved into societal issues with the Magro Beanfield War. A tiny town in New Mexico was at the core of the plot as it fought against corporate and governmental forces for water rights. Although it failed to become a box office smash, it demonstrated his desire to utilize cinema to tackle real-life problems via stories about communities and cultural identities. A River Runs Through It, a family drama he directed in 1992, is about two brothers who grow up in Montana under their father's harsh guidance. Poetic language, an emphasis on nature, and an examination of familial ties were the film's laudations. Playing one of the brothers, Brad Pitt's career took off thanks to the film as well. Critics praised Redford's direction, which established him as more than simply an accomplished actor-turned-director, thanks to its stunning visuals and profound emotional resonance. Redford had found his niche in the film industry by the 1990s. His works frequently drew from historical events, moral dilemmas, and his own struggles. The real-life quiz show scandals of the 1950s, in which TV shows were covertly altered to increase ratings, were depicted in his 1994 film Quiz Show. The film delves into questions of truth, corporate influence, and media ethics. It was nominated for numerous Academy Awards and received rave reviews from critics. Redford shone his ability to intelligently and balancedly tackle complex themes on the quiz program. His 1998 film, The Horse Whisperer, was both directed and starred in by him. The film followed a guy as he helped a wounded rider and a scared horse recover from their ordeals. The quiet strength of Redford's performance as the horse trainer was well matched by his direction, which evoked the emotional depth of perseverance and recovery. The film's breathtaking Western cinematography was another reason for its high acclaim. His self-assurance and command as a director were on full display in directing himself in such an emotionally taxing part. In addition to his busy acting and directing career, Redford also laid the groundwork for the Sundance Institute, which would become one of his most enduring legacies in the film industry. Established in 1980, the Institute's primary mission is to provide resources to aspiring filmmakers who wish to work outside of the traditional Hollywood system. Redford wanted to provide a platform for brilliant filmmakers and writers because he knew how hard it was for them to have their work seen. The Sundance Film Festival, the world's preeminent independent film event, originated at the Institute. Without it, many would-be actors and filmmakers might not have had their careers began. Redford's dedication to Sundance demonstrated his profound concern for the trajectory of storytelling, transcending his personal struggles with profession, love, bereavement, and secrecy. Robert Redford's private life was an emotional roller coaster that he rode out in the glare of Hollywood stardom. In a small ceremony held in Las Vegas, Nevada, Redford wed Lola Van Wagen on August 9, 1958. She was a young activist with a history degree, and he was just starting out in his job. The ceremony was small and intimate, reflecting their values of seclusion. However, the pair hosted a second reception at Lola's grandmother's house a month later, inviting intimate friends and relatives. They were able to have a more conventional celebration with family and friends at that get-together. 4 children were born to the Redfords. Scott Anthony was born to them on September 1, 1959. Scott tragically passed away from sudden infant death syndrome just 2.5 months after the birth. The young couple and their families were both profoundly affected by the tragedy. Decades after the fact, Redford discussed how the tragedy had an impact on him, particularly in regards to his heightened awareness of how precarious life is. Shauna, their daughter, was born in 1960. She would go on to become a talented artist. Like her father before her, Shauna followed her passion for art, but she did it through visual art rather than film. They established their own culture, an idea-centered life after she wed investigative journalist Eric Schloer. David James Jamie Redford, their second son, was born in 1962. Taking a page out of his father's playbook, Jamie became a writer, director, and producer in the film industry. Social and environmental concerns were common themes in his documentaries. His dedication to writing about issues that affected regular people was evident in his work. Tragically, Jamie succumbed to cancer and liver illness in 2020, causing the family yet another heartbreaking loss. In 1970, they welcomed their youngest child, Amy. She, too, became an actress, director, and producer after following in the creative footsteps of others. Amy continued the long tradition of storytelling in the Redford family by appearing in films and TV shows, and later going on to direct and produce. Creative expression took on new forms as a result of Robert and Lola's children. Throughout the years, the creative spirit of the family persisted in a variety of mediums, from painting to filmmaking. Their marriage was not without its difficulties, though, despite the benefits of parenthood and achievement. The pressures of Hollywood and public life mounted as Redford's career progressed. Reportedly, he and Lola had been allegedly living apart for a while by the early 1980s. They were discreet about their relationship and hardly discussed it in public. They actively sought to avoid the public spotlight so that they could focus on protecting their family. Uncertainty surrounded the specifics of the reports, but some suggested a discreet separation and others a divorce. It remained unclear whether the marriage had been officially dissolved, according to a 1991 Parade magazine article. Both Redford and Van Wagen chose to remain silent, refusing to divulge the kind of intimate details that the media frequently sought from famous people. Ensuring the safety of their children from unwelcome visitors was their first priority. Redford and Lola's children were a constant link in their marriage, no matter how far apart they lived. Even if their paths diverged, the relationship they formed over their years together remained strong. Redford found love again when his marriage to Lola ended. He started seeing German artist Sybil Sagers in the middle of the 90s. She collaborated with Redford in painting, multimedia, and performance art, demonstrating a profound connection to creation. They were able to understand and appreciate one another since they had a passion for art and culture. In an effort to escape the hectic pace of Hollywood, the Zagers relocated to Redford's house in Sundance, Utah. Their artistic pursuits and pursuit of a more tranquil, balanced life were able to flourish in this setting. Their private wedding ceremony took place at the Louis C. Jacob Hotel in Hamburg, Germany on July 11, 2009, after they had been together for over 10 years. This marriage was unique from Redford's first. His life and work had been marked by decades of experience, and he was older for it. He and Sagers displayed the qualities of an experienced couple based on trust, understanding, and common interests. Working together, they managed Redford's illustrious Hollywood career alongside his passions for art, family, and the outdoors. Redford discovered a sense of rejuvenation in the slower pace of life at his Sundance residence. His focus shifted from the industry to his creative endeavors, charitable activity, and family life, although he never completely left it. Robert Redford's private life was impacted by love, tragedy, and resilience when he wasn't in the spotlight. Then, for the first time ever, his long-lost friendship with Paul Newman would be revealed to the public. Mysteries of the Hollywood elite. Something snapped the moment Robert Redford and Paul Newman stepped foot on set together in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They quickly figured out how to work together on stage without extensive warm-ups or countless practices. They moved in perfect sync, as if they had an innate understanding of each other's movements in every given setting. It was evident in how well they performed. Even though they weren't coerced into being there, both men were dead set on mastering the craft. Redford leaned into quietness while Newman played charisma. When Redford needed a time to reflect, Newman was there to fill it with his witty banter. Neither of them was vying for attention. Rather, they found a middle ground that brought out the best in each of them. Their on-screen chemistry was so electric that it revolutionized the buddy movie formula. At a time when leading men frequently battled for control, Newman and Redford broke new ground by forming an alliance in which each actor bolstered the other. They were equally as close off camera. They both had a reputation for being hilarious, and the set was always a playground for their pranks. During lengthy shootings, crew members would tell stories of practical pranks that helped lighten the mood. Pranks were Newman's specialty, and Redford frequently found himself on the receiving end as well as the perpetrator. However, comedy was merely one component. Redford has frequently praised Newman for his humanity, praising his humility and gentleness as qualities that set him apart in the Hollywood industry. The fact that Newman was one of the most famous people of his time did not make him conceited. Every member of the crew, including strangers, was handled with the utmost respect by him. Redford found this trait to be more noticeable than Newman's acting abilities. In times of personal tragedy, like the infant death of Redford's son Scott, Newman was a soothing presence. He refrained from making any overt declarations or displays of emotion. He merely existed, empathizing without imposing his will. Trust established by such unwavering devotion endured for many years. Newman was an encouraging presence for Redford as he dealt with the demands of fame, directed, and, ultimately, founded the Sundance Institute. He frequently talked highly of Redford's initiatives to provide a platform for independent filmmakers, which he praised. Laughs and box office success weren't the only things that brought them together as friends. It was also about being there for one another in times of crisis. It had been over 40 years since Newman's death in 2008, when their brotherhood had come to an end. Not only did Redford lose a buddy, but he also lost someone who had been there for him through the good times and the bad. There was no Hollywood, no money, and no headlines involved in their friendship. In it, two guys formed an unbreakable bond of trust and loyalty that would endure a lifetime. Redford finally spoke out about the significance of that friendship when he was 89 years old, as you will see in the next section. Sad yet true, the closeness of Robert Redford's connection with Paul Newman remained a closely guarded secret for many years. Their incredible friendship inspired some of Hollywood's most iconic films, and fans knew it. Still, Redford was quite private about the details. He waited until he was 89 years old to decide to communicate his inner thoughts and feelings. Redford didn't merely break his silence by sharing heartwarming anecdotes. Regret was another emotion he acknowledged. Beyond their iconic roles in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting, he lamented the opportunities he had to work with Newman that went unfulfilled. The mystery of why the duo never worked together again on a third project had long baffled fans. It was clear from Redford's remarks that he shared the hope that it had occurred. "It's bad because there will never be another chance," remarked the politician. The melancholy in his remarks conveyed his respect for Newman, as well as his sorrow at the impending end of his presence. There was never going to be another chance to collaborate after Newman died. The loss hit Redford hard on a personal, as well as a professional level. Additionally, he mentioned how unusual Newman's traits were in the entertainment industry. He spoke highly of Newman, praising his modesty, charity, and sense of humor. Despite enjoying immense fame in a field notorious for ostentatious rivalry, Newman continued to distinguish himself. Redford clearly admired her. Success did not compromise Newman's moral compass. Part of the pain of losing him came from that, according to Redford. The teachings that Newman had imparted to him endured long after their time together on set had finished. He said, "Paul taught me that success is measured by kindness, integrity, and impact." These words encapsulate Newman's and Redford's principles. In Hollywood, success is often measured by fame, money, or awards. However, Newman reminded Redford that character was more important than fame, money, or awards. The way one treats others, lives honestly, and uses their power for good is what matters most in leaving a lasting legacy, as Newman demonstrated. As an actor, philanthropist, and founder of the illustrious food brand Newman's Own, which gave out 100% of its profits, Newman accomplished this goal personally. These were teachings that Redford internalized. New perspectives were given a platform by him via the Sundance Institute and Film Festival. His films posed challenging concerns about society and were directed by him. He was also quite discreet about his personal life and placed a high emphasis on his family. As an artist and a man, Redford was profoundly influenced by Newman's example, as reflected in his reflection. Redford revealed more about the friendship's personal aspect than just the lesson's regrets. He went on to describe the unseen bond they shared as a team. There was little need for them to clarify anything to one another on set. They were a perfect match. Their infectious rhythm made filming a pleasure, and their positive, upbeat spirit cheered on everyone around them. More than just a friend, Redford characterized Newman. Like a brother, he was there. How intimately close they were became clear in that comment. It was bigger than Hollywood and the movies they were in together. Their friendship endured for decades, characterized by unwavering support, encouragement, and mutual admiration. Redford sounded wistful while reflecting, which was bittersweet. With such a clear memory of the happiness they had, he felt a pang of nostalgia. Wistful, since such moments will never live again. The bond was true, long-lasting, and priceless. There was no one else who could replace Newman in Redford's life, and he expressed his gratitude for every moment they spent together. Please subscribe, like, and share this video if you loved hearing about the golden age of Hollywood.